think I've got this going. So I just wanted to do a little ride around. I don't exactly have, what do you call it, like a little stand. So I end up having to hold my phone, which scares people because, you know, I've got to shift, right? Excuse me a second while I take a drink. But, okay, let's see, who's behind me? No one. Other side. Okay, so I wanted to talk about how people reflect one another in conversations, or can, rather. You know, if someone comes at you with an attitude, a lot of times, you know, you may take exception to that, or reflect it back, you know, push back and be like, no, you know. Sometimes, of course, you can diffuse a situation, what have you. But what I watch so often is the frustration of an adult with a child, and that the child is expected somehow to maintain composure while the adult goes off on their attitude, and then the adult in charge or whatever, you know, and I'm not talking about like always an exhausted parent, which that happens from time to time. I'm talking about even in school, just piling on the shame and piling on all kinds of, it's like, and then they wonder where the sassy mouth comes from. It's like, well, you're the one who's talking to me like that. So then, you know, who's really the authority? Like, right, they totally discredit themselves when they become out of control, as they're claiming that the child is out of control when they're not maintaining their calm at all either. And this whole like punishment and rewards and talking about kids and humiliating them into behaviors, you know, it's like, it's so bullying, and yet, oh yes, we're so interested to make sure bullying doesn't happen. But I think so much more of that culture comes from the ways that the adults are treating the kids, and, you know, the kids are just taking it to the next level. But really, you know, I've heard adults say that, you know, using the positive effects of, what do they call it, peer pressure to improve people's behavior. And it's like, well, actually, that just causes that child to be more ostracized, because, you know, then everybody looks at the child within the class as, oh, that's the one that made us not get 5 extra minutes of, you know, playground time, which there's so little of physical exercise and movement. Like, our country's like the lowest in recess or something like that. I don't remember, but, you know, then people need to move. And we're, you know, chained chairs and classrooms all day. I mean, that was one of the things I loved about homeschooling, was that I could incorporate movement into anything I felt like, and it helped memorization, like, immensely. I remember learning about a father who was from Australia, and he had a daughter who had a very serious case of dyslexia. Like, they had tried every different kind of therapy for her, and even at 18 and 20, she was like still just having a horrible time. And finally he learned about how movement helps the brain with language skills, and he made a balance board in his garage or something, and then began having her balance on it, and he developed a whole way that he did it. By the end, she was reading fluidly, and I'm not saying that it did it magically. Obviously, it was all those years. Finally, it was like a floodgate, you know. That was like the thing that tipped it over the critical edge or whatever. But I go back and forth about, you know, homeschool and public schools, because I know it sounds like a contradiction, but I'm equally devoted to both, and I don't think they have to be in competition with one another, because they really provide incredibly different atmospheres. So they really aren't comparable. But it I'd like to have the best of both worlds and have my cake and eat it too, and I try to spend time, what's the word, working with my kids in ways outside of school that replicate that same thing, so that school doesn't beat it out of them, so to say, because it's such a frustrating thing when school makes learning frustrating, or takes out the joy of learning, or just, you know, having to go through a scheduled day, and just the whole, anyhow. Well, I hope y'all are having a good day, and I've got lots more to talk about. I just don't know how I'm going to do some of the things on my computer. I don't know what I'm up to, so wishing you all the best, and peace on your heart.